Brett Pransky from the Rick Smith Show. How you doing, my brother?
Fantastic. How are you
Nice
doing?
to see you. I mean, it's been I talked to Rick a few minutes ago, and what I told Rick is, hey, it's been a year ago, but actually it's not a year. We did last year was in August.
Yep, so we're a little under a year.
We're under a year, so it's like 11 months. What am I doing seeing you after 11 months? It's supposed to be a year, man. How you doing today, Rick?
I'm doing great.
Rick, how you doing today, Brett? Yeah.
I'm doing great, having a great day, having a great time here at Netroots. It's been a great show.
I know. It's I mean, what I like about this one, the last one was the first one after the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So you could see people a little bit more iffy in their behavior and the way they were doing. It's almost coming back to what Netroots has always been.
Yeah, I mean, but still, there's still some residuals from the pandemic
because we're
time,
still
there's still a lot of there's still a lot of masks in the room. There's still a lot of people taking a lot of precautions, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's a little more open, a little more like I said, it's a little less reserved than it was, say, last year.
And it's a good thing. I mean, we have the vaccines now, and so I mean, if you get COVID now, you get a little something, and it's not as bad as it was before.
Right.
So I mean, a friend of mine, I did my show earlier today, and he said, Egberto, I'm here, I'm recovering from COVID. Mm-hmm. So you're still hearing it, but the good thing about it is we have the solutions for it right now, and it shows here in the amount of exhibits we get and all the other things,
Yeah, and it was something that I, like many people, suffered through it.
Yeah.
And it's no picnic.
No.
But the fact that I was vaccinated and things like that made it a lot easier than it could have been.
Absolutely.
So it was, the miracles of technology.
I know. But hey, Brett, let's talk our business now.
Sure.
How that year? In this almost a year? What differences are there? What's your concerns? What are you happy about as a broadcaster?
As a broadcaster, one thing that I've noted in the past year, because we've had tremendous growth.
Right.
We're in probably twice as many markets as we were this time last year. And people have been really receptive to the message.
Right.
And this kind of, because right now, for example, you talk about the administration pushing out this middle out economy message and thing. This runs right in line with what we talk about pretty much each and every day. So we kind of consider ourselves to be middle out media. Mm-hmm. So seeing this message not only become a part of the administration's big push towards 2024 and so on, see all that fall in line with what we do and see the progress of the show and see the listeners and audience growing tremendously like it is. See the TV show on free speech, becoming one of the fastest growing programs on their air.
How many days are you on free speech?
Currently, we're on 3, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 o'clock. But we're hoping sometime in the very near future to go
5 days
to go nightly, to go nightly. And then hopefully, sometime in the near future, we'll go twice a day. We'll go, we'll have a morning program and an evening program too.
Yeah, well, that is fun, but I tell you, that's difficult. I'm doing 2 programs, just one on radio and one radio and streaming and one streaming only. It's a lot of work. The good thing is you guys have a larger team. Well, I have a team of 1. You have a team of many.
Yeah, well, we have a team of a few paid individuals and a lot of what I like to call fire-breathing do-gooders who just do it because they love it, because they care.
Yeah, and it's that. Believe it or not, that tells you that you're doing something right. Mm-hmm. Because when people actually want to volunteer to do this kind of work, especially this kind of work, it actually speaks well not only about what you're doing, but the people that you're doing it with.
Exactly, and the people we're doing it for. I mean, because a lot of those supporters are the people who call in on the phone lines during the show, and we have regular folks we talk to almost every program because they're just so loyal about calling in and talking to us.
Isn't that kind of fun when you have that following that? The same. I mean, I like getting new calls, and you're doing something right when you get a constancy of those who call, but also interspersed with that, you get that new caller that just get that courage to call. It says you're doing something.
Oh, I love first-time callers.
Yeah.
Even if we have to tell them to turn down the radio.
Yes, so we always have to tell them to turn down the radio.
But we love first-time callers. But in this business nowadays, there's not a whole lot of us anymore who are going into a bigger studio, and broadcasting from the local radio station or something like that. Many of us are at home in our home studios. Many of those home studios have one person in them.
Yes.
So knowing that the world is out there listening to what you're doing, so you need that contact, that validation, because it's real easy to think, well, it's just me here, in a room talking into a microphone. It's really easy to get that, get that feeling that no one's out there listening and you're doing it for yourself. So the constant feedback and the audience reaching out and speaking to us really validates what we do. And that's one of the reasons why events like this are so important, because those same people are here, and we get to see them face to face. Watching someone cross the room to meet us because they listen to us or because they watch a show on Free Speech TV, I don't think they're fully aware of just how much that means to us, because, again, we spend so much of our time essentially in a box.
Yeah, I tell that story all the time. When I tell people this is their program, a lot of times they don't believe it, but they don't understand that really we have the passion, but we really get the validation from them. And the only way we know that the validation is there is if we have context. So in the case when I'm doing my online show, it's a chat that I'm interacting with, and these people are chatting away as they're watching the video cast on the thing. On radio, it's the telephone calls. You know what I did recently? One of our listeners said, Egberto, you need to get phone access for your online show. So what I found a company called Ring Central, and I bring that right into the computer system, and now we can have people dial into the thing as they're seeing it online. And it is amazing because the feedback it brings us. The people online don't necessarily always want to do chat and call in. But for that person that you said something that, you either piss me off or I want to validate it, they like to have that avenue. So you're right. There's nothing more than getting that validation from your audience.
True. And it sometimes causes a few issues here and there, though, as well. For example, our show is on, every night at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the radio all over the place. And we're always giving out the phone number to call in. Yeah. Well, the TV show on Free Speech comes out at 9 o'clock as well, but it's sometimes a day behind, or it's sometimes a few hours behind.
And you get a call.
We'll get a call on live air wanting to talk about an issue they just saw on TV that we're not talking about in the segment on air on the radio that night, and it causes a little bit of cross chatter. That can be difficult, but like anything else, we're just glad they're calling.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, recently what I've started doing when I use segments from my on-air show is I try to cut those out, but it's a lot of work, and it is just too much work to cut out. Where you say call, so you got to cut call, and then keep the program.
Or when it's on our TV program, I'm running the number on the bottom of the screen, and
that's an issue too.
Yeah, and we're not going to stop doing that.
Yeah, so. No, you can't stop doing that, right? But not only that, it's not a bad thing, right? Because a lot of people see the number on that particular day, and they use that, and they're going to call some other time. So that is fine. That is fine also.
That's true.
Now, politically speaking, what's your thoughts? Where are we at?
We're in a weird place.
I know, but where are we? What's your thought? I mean, we were a bit pessimistic, I think, earlier on. Personally, I'm more optimistic. Where are you?
I would say I'm leaning towards the more optimistic side of things. Yeah. Now, anyone who lived through 2015, 2016, to guard your optimism. Yes. These days, because the unthinkable can happen. Because no one thought that Trump could be elected until he was. Right. And many people didn't believe it days afterwards.
Exactly.
They're like, I'm sorry, what happened? There's no way that could have happened, but it did.
For me, it was just hurt, because I hate to tell you, I went on to Daily Kos and I wrote an article and said that Donald Trump was, what is it that Clinton knew how to do very well? Triangulating. Mm-hmm. He knew how to triangulate. Clinton is a guy from Arkansas. He knows about triangulation. Right. Okay? And Trump was just playing that number, and people looked at it and like, it can't work because, progressives know he's just talking up his what. But no, he was doing what it took. And there's a particular segment in our society his message appeals to.
And it really does. I mean, it's kind of Trump was able to tap into an emotion, and it's a real emotion, because there are things going on now that are distressing. When I was a small child, I lived in a single income household. Right. My father was able to make enough money to support the entire household, because those jobs existed. Right. And they don't exist so much anymore. Exactly. And we've gone from one income households to two income households. Now I just saw a report the other day that said 50% of American workers have a second job.
Yeah.
That means if you have two workers in the house, say a mother and a father, there are at least 3 jobs. We now live in 3 income households on average, and our life expectancy is dropping. Our standard of living has not increased. In fact, it's decreased. Wages are flat or declining against yearly inflation.
Right.
And so there's a lot of struggle out there, and struggle is where radicalism comes from.
Exactly.
If desperation rises, radicalism will rise right along with it. And that's whether you're talking about our country or countries halfway across the globe who don't like us very much. Many times the radicalization you see in these companies or in these countries is tied to that same kind of desperation. People who don't have the same access to good jobs, good lives, the ability to provide for their families and create a good future for the next generation. When you take these things away, people will go out there, they'll look for a sense of belonging, they'll look for a sense of community, they'll look for a sense of hope. And if the people who are going to provide that to you are also going to ask you to do dangerous radical things, you're much more likely to do them. So radicalism here and radicalism halfway around the globe are all the same cause.
I think, Brett, one of the things we got to do is that I think that's why our work, as not sufficiently funded as it is our only saving grace.
Yep.
I've thought that for a long time. That's why I do it. I know that's why you do it, because there's a lot of other things that really we could do that really pays.
Right.
And but we understand also that we have kids, those that depend on us. We have to leave them something better.
Yeah, I'm gonna misquote this. The saying is going to be incorrect, but it's the gist of it will be there. If there must be trouble, if there must be conflict, let it be in my time.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is we would rather have that conflict, because I don't want to leave this for my kids.
Exactly.
I don't want my children to have to deal with a situation that I didn't spend my life trying to make better.
Exactly.
So yeah, there are a lot of places out there where where I could make my life more comfortable.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't want that.
And it is amazing, right? I mean, and I always talk about the psychopath, right? The psychopath is a person who revels in somebody else's misfortune, and I find a lot of that. And it's not, I want to say on the right, but it's not completely fair, because a lot of my brothers and sisters on the right, they're suffering. They just think they're suffering for the wrong reason, right?
Right, and that wrong reason is usually someone who doesn't look like them.
Exactly.
And keep in mind that's all constructed.
Right.
I mean, that is using the old Jay Gould quote that we use on the air all the time. I can always hire one half of the working class to murder the other half. This is all, but there's more to it than that. That's not just a useful tool to get one group to turn on another group. It's also a tool to keep them from coming together.
Exactly.
So what we'll find, and we find this everywhere we go. We travel around the country, and we don't go from big city to big city. We go from what we like to call factory towns, those mid-sized and small towns where there used to be a plant in town that was the main job feeder for the entire community, and that would spread out to all the other places. And the entire town was able to live, off of that one or two major employers. All of those places are gone. Now those places today, the number one employer is the hospital. The number two employer is the rehab clinic.
And you know what is so funny about that, Brett? You said the number one employer is the hospital. And with what they're trying to do with our healthcare system right now, even that is in danger. Rural areas.
Especially in rural hospitals.
And the thing about it is the people who will save that area is the people we support. And they are, it is something that I blame, to put it bluntly, a lot of the Democratic politicians in office. A couple of days on my show, my radio show, I said, imagine if every time a hospital closed in rural Pennsylvania, rural Texas, rural California, rural Florida, we got a band of politicians, Democratic politicians, who support things like the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. Imagine if at the closing of those institutions, they stood up there and they say, brought to you courtesy of, name by name, all the folks who voted in a manner that created that reality. But we don't do that, or the consultants don't tell them to do that, and because they live in another world.
Right, and that's correct. And I'm gonna bring up another kind of old metaphor where there's a story about, you ever heard of the story about the boiling a frog?
Yes, I use that all the time.
Yeah, if you take a frog and throw it in the boiling water, it's going to hop out.
Right.
But if you put the frog in normal kind of room temperature
Right.
water and slowly turn up the heat, the frog will sit there and cook. We're cooking.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And because it's happening slowly, I'll give you an example. I live in Ohio. Mm-hmm. In Ohio, only 25% of the counties in the entire state have even one OBGYN.
Wow.
So, only a quarter of the counties in Ohio have it.
Right?
That's correct. Most people have to travel, at least 50, 60, 70 miles to get to an OBGYN.
My God, I thought Texas.
And that dynamic is all over the place. You'll find this if you look for these numbers throughout the states, you're going to find a shocking number of counties in your state, that do not have access at all.
I bet they are mostly rural counties, right?
Exactly. You'll have the major cities, the counties with the major cities will have dozens, and then you go one layer outside of that, and there is zero.
None. Yeah.
So everyone has to go to the city. So if you don't live, within 50, 60 miles of a major metropolitan area, there's access you don't get. And if you drill down into like mental health care and things like, numbers get worse. They don't get better, they get worse.
Yeah.
So it's a real problem. And again, one of those things, as long as we're hiring one half of the working class to murder the other half, which is what, keep in mind, there are corporate entities out there pay a lot of money to get that dynamic. I mean, like we go to war with the right-wing, media all the time.
Right.
But the one thing that the public doesn't know is almost every single one of these guys on the right doesn't believe a word that comes out of their mouth.
No, they don't.
They're just getting paid.
They got vaccines. They also, about the drugs that they advertise on. It is amazing that many people don't realize that yet. But you know what? That's why we're here.
That's exactly why we're here.
Give me a closer, brother.
Well, I tell you what, I'll go ahead and and pitch the show a little bit for folks who aren't familiar. The Rick Smith Show is a show by working people for working people. It's run by a 30-year Teamster, a truck driver, a UPS guy who might soon be on strike.
Yeah. Oh, is it UPS?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Yes, that's who he's driving for. And in every day we concern ourselves with the lives of working families in America. What we get right and what we get wrong is all in the service of making lives better for American working people and talking about the issues that American working people care about.
Brett, it's been a pleasure to have
Always
you
a
on
pleasure.
Politics Done Right.
Always
Thank you
a
so
pleasure.
kindly, my brother.
Thank you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share.